I'm Lieutenant Kevin Tracy with the Liberty City Police Department Housing Bureau, and behind me is the Governor Greg Johnson houses. This location wasn't always home to brutalist architecture, hip-hop music, urban culture, and a saving grace for low-income families. The history of the Greg Johnson houses can be traced back to 1876, when the construction of the Polo Grounds had come to an end. The original Polo Grounds, also known as Polo Grounds 1, stood at Vespucci Circus between Frankfort Avenue and Columbus Avenue, directly across Topaz Street from the northeast corner of Middle Park. The venue's original purpose was for the sport of polo. Its name was initially merely descriptive, not a formal name, and often rendered as the Polo Grounds in newspapers. The Liberty Mags, an independent team of roughly Major League caliber, was the first professional baseball team to play there, beginning in September 1880, and remained the sole professional occupant through the 1882 season. At that time, the Mags ownership had the opportunity to bring it into the National League, but elected instead to organize a new team, the Liberty Gothams, who soon came to be known as the Packers, mainly using players from the Mags and the newly defunct Kingston Kings, and entered into the National League while bringing what remained of the Mags Club into the competing American Association. For this purpose, the ownership built the second diamond and grandstand at the park, dividing into eastern and western fields for use by the Packers and Mags, respectively. Polo Grounds 1 thus hosted its first Major League Baseball games in 1883 as the home stadium of two teams, the American Association Mags and the National League Packers. The dual fields arrangement proved unworkable because its faulty servicing of the western field, and after various other arrangements were tried that the Mags and Packers alternated play on the eastern field in later years until the Mags moved to the Charge Island field on Charge Island in 1886. Although the Packers would soon become the team of choice in the city, the Mags had a good year in 1884. They had started the season in a new facility called Mag Park, which proved to be such a poor venue that they moved back to the Polo Grounds within a few weeks. Despite that bit of drama, the Mags went on to win the American Association pennant. Their good fortune ran out when they faced the Providence Grays in the World Series, in which Providence pitcher Old Hoss Radburn pitched 3 consecutive shutouts against them. All 3 games had been staged at the Polo Grounds. The original Polo Grounds were used not only for polo and professional baseball, but often for college baseball and football as well, even by teams outside Liberty. The earliest known surviving image of the field is an engraving of a baseball game between Liberty University and North Yankton University on Decoration Day, May 30th, 1882. Liberty and Los Santos University also played the traditional Thanksgiving Day football game there, November 29th, 1883, November 24th, 1887. The demolition and forced relocation of the Polo Grounds. Liberty City was in the process of extending its street grid into Uptown Algonquin in 1889. Plans for an extended Uranium Street and Vauxhall Street ran through the Polo Grounds. It has been said that city workers have even shown up suddenly one day and begun cutting through the fence to lay out the new street. With the Packers having won the National League pennant the year before, as well as the World Series, there was significant sentiment in the city against the move. A bill was even passed by state legislature giving the Packers a variance which would allow the park to stand. Governor Greg Johnson, who had campaigned for office on a home rule pledge, vetoed it on the grounds that whatever he might think of the forced destruction of the park, the will of the city government was to be respected. The loss of the park forced the Packers to look quickly for alternative grounds. Polo Grounds 2. The Packers opened the 1889 season at Actor Park in Albany City, Albany, playing their first 2 games there. 4 days later, they moved to Charge Island Field. After closing out a homestand at Charge Island Field on June 14th, the Packers went on the road. Upon their return on July 8th, they had relocated again to a new Polo Grounds site within Algonquin at the far terminus of the then Frankfort Avenue elevated at Xenotime Street and Vespucci Circus. Newspaper accounts indicate that seats from the original Polo Grounds were moved to the new Polo Grounds stands. Despite their vagabond existence during the first half of the 1889 season, the Packers began their stay at the new ballpark just 4 games behind the league-leading Carcer Club. They rallied to win the pennant for the 2nd consecutive year, as well as that year's World Series against Broca. After the National League version of the Liberty Packers moved into Polo Grounds 2 in 1891, Polo Grounds 2 was subleased to the Algonquin Athletic Club and was referred to ever after as Algonquin Field. It was converted for other sports such as football and track and field. The final years. The ballpark then sat largely vacant for nearly 3 years, until the newly formed football team, the Titans of Liberty, presently known as the Liberty Wrath, began play in 1960, followed by the newly formed Mags in 1962, using the Polo Grounds as an interim home while Mag Stadium was being built. In 1961, the City of Liberty decided to claim the land under eminent domain for the purpose of condemning the stadium and building a high-rise housing project on the site. The Coogan family, which still owned the property, fought this effort until it was finally settled in the city's favor in 1964. On September 18, 1963, 1,752 fans went to see the Liberty Mags play the last game at the Polo Grounds against the Carson City Cons with a 5-1 Carson City win. The game's highlights were later shown on Universal's Universal International newsreel. On October 12th, the Polo Grounds played host to one last exhibition contest, as Latin American All-Stars of the National League, managed by Roberto Clemente, and behind the pitching of Juan Marichal and Al McBean, defeated Hector Lopez's AL Stars in a 5-2 victory. The final sporting event played at the Polo Grounds was on December 14th, 1963, when the now renamed AFL team Liberty Wrath lost to Los Santos Pounders in a 19-10 victory. The demolition of the Polo Grounds. The final iteration of the Polo Grounds was demolished in 1964, beginning on April 10th with a wrecking ball painted to look like a baseball. The wrecking crew wore Packers jerseys and tipped their hard hats to the historic stadium as they began dismantling it, with a crew of 60 workers taking 4.5 months to level the stadium. Stephen McNair, a Broca Benders fan, grabbed a sledgehammer as easily as John Miz picked up a bat, marked off the left field fence beneath Section 33 and vowed, "I'm going to take that place down myself." It was the fence over which Bobby Thompson hit the home run that kept the Benders out of the World Series in 1951 and put the Packers in. The foreman on the job, Abe Gash, shouted, "No you don't! Be gentle over there. History was made there." The site is now home to the Governor Greg Johnson Houses, a public housing project opened in 1968 and managed by the Liberty City Housing Authority. The Liberty City Housing Authority is a public development corporation which provides public housing in Liberty City and is the largest public housing authority in North America. Created in 1934 as the first agency of its kind in the United States, it aims to provide decent, affordable housing for low and moderate income Liberty Cityans throughout the 4 boroughs of Liberty City. The Liberty City Housing Authority works closely with the Liberty City Police Department Housing Bureau to ensure the safety of its residents within these housing projects, just like the Governor Greg Johnson houses. The Liberty City Police Department Housing Bureau is responsible for providing police services to about 420,000 people living in Liberty City's public housing projects. They are stationed in police service areas, which are almost identical to police precincts, with 4 PSAs in total located throughout Algonquin, Broca, Dukes, and Bohan. This has been a tour through time.